Hello everyone. Yeah, today we resume our lectures for research methods 2, and today we are specifically focusing on appendices. Yeah, appendices is the last bit of a research proposal. Once you reach out on appendices, you have reached the last bit of the research proposal. And appendices we begin with references. Yeah, we have references, we have the work plan, we have the participant consent forms, we have data collection forms, we have the research budget, and then any maps necessary. Yeah, we have these as the appendices, and today that's what we are going to talk about. Good. So this is now we begin with references and appendices. We begin with references. Yeah, this is section of references is the list of references that were reviewed under chapter 2 of literature review. If you remember very well in that lecture, we talked about that each article that you read about, you cite its reference. And if you're dealing with Mendeley, you save it in the Mendeley library. And then when it comes to references, you save all of them at once. You get it, eh? Yeah, each article you read, you save it. When it comes to citing them, you cite them all at once. I'm going to do a simple demonstration. So, whichever format in which references were made is placed under the section of references. I also discussed the formats for referencing under literature review. If you haven't watched that lecture, please go and do watch it. So references must be arranged in alphabetical order, and then they must be attached in numbers. We're going to see how this one is done. I provided a demonstration. I'm going to demonstrate on how to do this in a Word document. Let me first switch my share to a Word document. Yeah, I'm going to switch my share to a Word document like that. Okay. Excuse me for this. Good. So I'm trying to switch to a Word document such that we can see the demonstration of how you can write your references. Okay, hope members can see my screen very well. Yeah, and this is just a demonstration sheet. So when I'm writing my research proposal, I will write my heading. Let me first remove this. Okay, I will write my heading. I will write everything. I'm trying to organize here. Okay. Okay. Excuse me for this delay. I'm just trying to organize for us something really good. Something really good. Okay, so since I'm going to write a heading, I'll come here. Hope you can see my cursor under heading 1, and then they'll bring for me a heading 1 format, and then I will write reference. I will type in references. Yes, these are references. Let me bold it in capital letters. These are references. And then when I come here, it will then return to normal. You can see it here. It has returned it to normal. Yeah, as the references is a heading, you can see this arrow indicates that it is a heading. I made it from here, and then I'm going to put in my references there. I'm going to number them, but at first I go and copy them. So let's see how still you can do that. Just keep following. Just keep following. I'm trying to demonstrate how we can do everything. So when I'm going to copy my references from Mendeley, I will go to Mendeley. Let me take a screen there so that we can see there very well. Okay. So you can see last time when I was discussing under literature review, I talked about Mendeley. So I guess members remember very well on how you can have such a library presented like this. Yeah, I guess members remember very well. So what I do, I'll come here and then select the references that I want to copy. I select the articles that I want to copy, that I want to cite. Yes, I'm going to select them and then paste them under my references section. Yeah, I can select as very many as possible, just that me have selected these ones for now. Then I'll come here and then select copy as. Yeah, and then I'm going to have them as formatted citations. I can even change The citation style, I talked about these styles. This one is currently in AMA. I can decide to take it into upper style. Yeah. And then after I close, I come here, and then I copy. Yeah. I copy them as formatted citations. Whereby if I go back to Word now, if I go back to Word, just keep following. If I go back there, I'll now have them pasted. Yeah, everything that I copied, I will have them pasted very, very well here. You get it? Yeah, you select any format of pasting. So you can see they are being pasted here. Yes, and then I must number them. We talked about this, that they must be numbered. So I'm going to highlight out my references and then select to number them here. So there you can see they are numbered. And then secondly, they must be arranged in alphabetical order. Currently, they are not in alphabetical order. So I must arrange them in alphabetical order. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I'll then come here. I hope you can see my cursor to arrange my paragraphs in alphabetical order. I can say ascending. That is from A to Z. Yeah, like that, and then they will arrange themselves automatically. I hope you can see now that they are in alphabetical order. They are well numbered. This is the way I present my references when I'm writing a research proposal. These references are the articles that I read when I was doing literature review. These are the articles that I read about when I was doing my literature review. So I'll go back to the presentation now. Hope you have seen how we can do how we can cite out our references. I'll go back to the presentation now. Then we shall go to the next part, that is to do with now Appendix 1. Yeah, Appendix 1 is the work plan. Yeah. Okay. So the work plan is very, very important. Yeah. It is very important. This is the structured plan that indicates the time division for the research project. Yeah. So the principal investigator or author of the research protocol indicates the activities to be done in the research process versus the month of the year in which it will be done. So the activities may include drafting or writing the research proposal, submission, presentation and approval of the research proposal, data collection, data entry, analysis and presentation, dissemination of findings, and final dissertation, report writing, printing, and submission. So please, you must come up with a work plan showing that each and every activity and the month perhaps that you are hoping to do it. You can even specify dates in case you have you know the specific dates each and everything is going to be done. However, if you don't have dates, you can have months. Let me just give a simple demonstration in Word of how you can actually do this. Let me have a simple demonstration in Word. Just keep following. So these were my references. Then I'll come here and then insert a blank page. So once I insert a blank page, I will then come back here to writing my heading. I want to have a heading as the appendix. Now the other one was on references. Now this one's on Appendix 1, and Appendix 1 is talking about a work plan. You understand? Yes, work plan, or we can even call it the timeline. Yes, and then it depends on any format that you want to use or your computer skills. I can use a table, just a simple table, to have a month and then the activities. Yeah. So let's say I'll have my activities here, writing the proposal, and then I'll have another activity as submission. You know the activities that we'll be doing. I gave just some activities under my presentation. Submission of the proposal, like that. I can also have something to do with data collection. I'm just giving some demonstration of how you can do this. I'll then come here to have my months of the year. For example, I have January, I have February, I have March, like that. And then I'll come here to shade, perhaps, for example, yes, I can decide to give it a shading that since I'll write my research proposal in January, and then in February, that's when I will do my submission of the proposal. I give it a shading, and then in March, that's when I will do my data collection. You understand? Yes, in case I have another activity, report writing, like that, a report writing, I can put a shade in a March and say that's when I'll also do report writing, meaning March, that's when I will do my data collection as well as do my report writing. I've just given just a simple presentation of a timeline, but for you can have beyond these 3 months, you can have beyond these 4 activities, and then you give a shading under each activity. That one can be enough for you to demonstrate for us your timeline, and then we shall now try to correlate them with the different states of emergency or even different demands in the nation at that time period. So I guess members have learned how you can just give a simple demonstration of your work plan. I'll go back to my presentation. So the above listed activities are not the only activities. However, all undergraduate studies should have at least all of these activities that I've listed here above. Very, very good. Now I'll go to participant consent forms as another appendix. This is now Appendix C2. Yeah, Appendix C2 will have your participant consent forms. Yeah. So informed consent forms serve as a means of ensuring that individuals fully understand the nature of the research they are being asked to participate in. That is the role of consent forms. So this includes the potential risks and benefits before agreeing to take part in the study. In my next slide, I've talked about the details of what to include or no, of what to include on a consent form. Yeah. Many research review boards have their templates, by the way, for these studies. Yeah, I talked about the research review boards in the previous presentation, and I told you you must get in touch with your institution to get to know the research review board that they're actually working with. So many of them have their templates of these informed consent forms. They can, in case you to work with them, they can share with you their template, and then for you just have to fill in credentials from your study. So as a student or a researcher to work with them, you use that template. Yeah. However, even without the template, there are key principles that cannot miss in a participant consent form that I have discussed in the next presentation. Number 1, introduction. Under introduction, talk about yourself and why you are obtaining consent from that individual. You talk about yourself, whether you're a student, what is your institution, which course are you doing, and then why are you obtaining consent from me? That is the introduction. Yeah. And then purpose, indicate the objective of the study and how the results will be used. That's what you talk about under purpose. Then procedure, talk about what is going to take place during the course of data collection. Tell the individual through this consent form. Yeah. Tell the individual what is going to take place during data collection. What information do you need from him or her as a participant? Then inclusion and exclusion criteria. How have you arrived at him or her to be eligible to participate in the study? I talked about inclusion and exclusion criteria in a previous presentation. Good. So here, of course, you gave your details of how you'll arrive at participant. And now at this point in time, you're communicating to this participant how you have selected him or her out to be eligible or to be recruited in the study. Then risks and discomforts, indicate any possible risks irrespective of the magnitude of this risk. You must talk about any risk, even if it is very small, even if it is very big. Talk about it so that the participant can know whether they can bear that risk and then participate in your study. Benefits, you must talk about the benefits. Indicate how the participant is going to benefit from giving you the rightful information that you need or anything you want from them. So, investigators should not use this section to bribe individuals and lure them to participate, to accept the participation. Please and please, many investigators use this chance that this is a benefit that you will benefit when you are a participant of this study. Therefore, you must accept. And if you don't accept, you see, you will have missed. No, please do not use this chance to lure, to persuade your participants to accept your request. Then confidentiality, indicate how you to ensure their data is to remain confidential. You must indicate it in your informed consent form. Then the cost, indicate if any participation has any extra cost from the individual. If the individual is to pay certain cost, please indicate it in your research informed consent form. Then compensation, indicate how you are to compensate their time. Many investigators also use this step to bribe participants to ensure that they accept their requests. Please, this section should not also be used in that category. It is just to indicate how you are going to compensate their time that they have given you to participate in your study, because they have been doing some other activities, but then they are giving you something like 30 minutes or even an hour to accept participation. So you must indicate the compensation that they will take. Then the other key principle is the concept of statement of voluntariness. Under this section, tell your participants to ask any questions where they haven't understood. Indicate that they have a right to withdraw from the study at any time. In case the study, they can withdraw from the study at any time. In case the study is not favoring, that's what I wanted to mean here. In case the study is not favoring, they are free to they are free to withdraw from the study without any penalty. Please, you must indicate it. And if there is a penalty, please, such a study cannot proceed. We cannot allow it to take place. Indicate the contacts that they can reach to in case anything regarding their rights is violated. You must indicate that my supreme supervisor is such and such, or the chairperson of my research ethics committee that I worked with is so and so. Please reach out to him or her in case you feel like not comfortable where your rights are.
Statement of consent. For this case, the participant has understood whatever you explained to them regarding the study, as well as their right to participate or withdraw, and a copy of the form is provided to them. And these participants will now consent to participate in your study by signing on the form, or even if it's an audio, they accept, but when it is recorded. And this indicate the form, if it is a form, it must indicate the date and referees where necessary to sign. And then now we go to types of consent forms. There are 4 types. We have the genuine informed consent forms. We have the parental or guardian forms. We have the waiver consent forms, and also assent forms. Yeah. So when it comes to the general consent forms, this is now it covers the general population. Those are the adults. They will consent for themselves. You get it? They will consent for themselves, and it is generally the whole population. So long as someone is eligible, they will follow the general form. The general form will contain the principles that I recently discussed in the previous slides. Yeah. So those general principles, like I've listed them here, they're the contents of the general informed consent form. And then when it comes to the parent or guardian informed consent form, so if the research involves minors or individuals who are unable to provide consent for themselves, such cases might be having some cognitive impairments and any mental disabilities. So the parent or guardian is required to consent for them. Yeah. So this form will outline the study details and allows parents to provide permission on behalf of the participant to go on in the study. Now, the assent form, in studies involving minors, an assent form may be used in addition to parent consent forms. Yeah. So this minor will sign now for themselves. They will sign for themselves, say that they have also consented to participate in the study. The form is designed for children to indicate their willingness to participate based on their understanding of the study in age-appropriate language. Yeah, and now the waiver of consent forms. This occurs in certain circumstances where obtaining explicit consent form from participants is not feasible or would compromise integrity of the study. So such a consent is sought from the institutional review boards. Yeah, we have cases whereby it is an observational study. You don't want to engage any participant for that case. You just want to observe perhaps their behavior, their way of doing things. You understand, eh? And at some point, perhaps if their awareness would distort your findings. So for that case, we shall use a waiver of consent form, which you obtain from your institutional review board, and such a review board will consent and give you a go ahead. Or such consent can also be sought from administrations, for example, administration of a sub-county, administration of a district, like that. They will give you a go ahead to collect the data from the participants, and such a participants, perhaps engaging them would distort your findings. The study is an observational study. Yeah, and other circumstances related in line with that. And then this is to note, the consent form should be drafted following the broad objective of the study. I hope this one is clear. Yeah, a study has a broad objective. I discussed about this in our last lectures. And this broad objective will guide you on the language, on how your target audience is expected to be. Such a broad objective will guide the drafting of the consent form. So the nature of the target population should be considered, and this especially includes the level of education. Like I've said, such cases guide you on the language they speak, their reading and writing capacity. Yes, it even tells you whether your form will be a structured one or a semi-structured, or your questions will be open-ended or closed-ended, or even will your consent form be participant administered or interviewer administered? I mean, will your participants answer for themselves? Yeah, so that is the case to note here. Then when we go to Appendix 2, that is the data collection form. Each study category has its own data collection, depending on the objectives of the study. Yeah, just like the consent form. The objectives give you the format, or the format of questions, or the format of the structuring of your data collection form. However, some studies have template data collection forms. For example, studies assessing alcohol use, smoking, mental disorders such as depression, and among others. They have their templates from WHO that can be accessed on the internet. There are studies like depression. When you are studying depression, there is a data collection form specifically for assessing depression. So such a form is administered. You download it from the internet, adjust it according to your study objectives, and then you administer to your participants that you have recruited. So during literature review process, the investigator can also draft their forms from previous studies conducted on a similar topic. During the literature review, you might land on a data collection form that the investigator of that study perhaps used. So for that case, you can relate on the data collected or the format of their data collection form to draft your own form. Or you can even sit down and plan your own form. Then a point to note here. So the point to note here is that data collection form should also be drafted following the broad objective, just like the consent. The target population should also be considered again, and the key attention should be driven to the nature of the questions and in necessity. These can be open-ended, I've talked about them, close-ended, semi-structured questions, and also choose the nature of the question depending on necessity. I mean, do not just ask age if age is not a factor in the case you are investigating. Of course, age is general, but there are some cases someone will ask about taking of raw salt, yet raw salt has no association perhaps with lung cancer. You understand? The topic investigated is, for example, HIV, but someone includes a question on use of raw salt. You understand? Unless there is some significance it contains, or there is some necessity it has on the findings of the study, that's when you include it as a variable. That's what I mean, choose nature of questions depending on necessity. Nature of population may not be considered for checklist tools. This means that you just want to observe. Remember, checklists will be applied in observational studies. That's what I mean. We may not consider whether my population attended school or not, because I will just be observing and ticking, unless otherwise when it is a necessity. I repeat, only include it when it is necessary. It has an influence on the findings of that study. Then we go to Appendix 3, that is the research budget. This includes the items required in the research process, their respective quantities and amount for each. Then a grand total is obtained for that case. Note that poor structuring of the budget leads to poor accounting and allocation of resources. Remember, when you're going to begin a research project, you have your resources aside, and these resources are what you're going to use in your research project, meaning you must have accounted for them well and allocated them properly, and this is better achieved when you make a research budget. Of course, resources, generally, I mean the monetary resources, the funds that you have at hand. Therefore, the investigator should as well indicate the source of funds for that case. When you are drafting a research budget, also indicate the source of funds, be it personal or governmental or organizational. Indicate that my source of funds is going to come from my personal account, or from the government, or a such and such organization is going to fund this study. This is very crucial when making a research proposal. The research budget, you must come up with one and tell us how your resources are going to be distributed. Then Appendix 4, that is the necessary maps. It is always advisable to include maps, especially for cross-sectional and survey studies. In case you're going to make a survey, your study is a survey or a cross-sectional study. Actually, such designs, descriptive surveys and cross-sectional studies are very common in public health research. I mean, research going to be made in communities. It is very important to use research designs of cross-sectional or descriptive surveys. Therefore, if you're going to use such a design, it is always important to include a map, because a map will indicate you the location of the study area and can as well be used to allocate dispersion of target populations. Another example of a research design that is good for maps is the case-specific studies. Yeah, in case your study is case-specific, I mean, in case you want to target only cases of HIV, I'll use a map first to locate these cases. I can use a map to locate prevalence or even dispersion of these cases in such and such an area. This is important to tell that in this town council, we shall see very many cases. I can use a map to use dots, whereby a dot can be representing 10 people. Whereby if I indicate many dots in an area, this indicates that that is the number of people who are positive of HIV in such and such an area. Then by the time you proceed to telling us other significant variables or factors regarding HIV of that area, we shall have seen the prevalence or the dispersion of cases for HIV in that particular area. That's why we say it is necessary to include maps for cross-sectional study designs, descriptive surveys, and case-specific studies. This has been today's lecture. Thanks for watching. Once again, my name is Kato Alex Male. Yeah, as usual, I'm a public health officer and a researcher. And this brings the end of our lectures on research proposal development. Our next lecture is going to be on research report overview, and also shall talk about chapters 4 and 5 of the research report. Once we finish this, that will be the end for research methods 2. Today we have been discussing appendices, and those have been our lecture objectives. Thanks for watching and have a nice time.